I'm here in the State of Charge garage with a beautiful Ford F-150 Lightning, but it's not mine. As you can tell, this is the antimatter blue, and I have the black F-150 Lightning. This is a Ford vehicle on loan to Kyle Connor, my friend and podcast mate. We are charging up this guy right now. We're almost at 100%. When we get to just about 100%, we're going to unplug, and Kyle and I are going to have a race to the Daytona International Speedway in Florida. And those of you that follow me know I live in northern New Jersey. It's a little over 1,000 miles. We're doing a 1,000-mile race to Florida, but there are some rules here. Kyle can only charge at Tesla Superchargers. Now that the Ford Tesla deal has begun and Ford vehicles can access Tesla Superchargers, some of them, not all of them, V3 and not even all V3 superchargers, and use an adapter to charge at those stations, Kyle has to exclusively stop at Tesla Superchargers to charge the Lightning on the way. Me, on the other hand, can use any CCS DC fast charger. Now, I looked at the route. I haven't really planned it out. I don't know where I'm going to stop just yet. It really depends on how far I can go between charges. It's rainy out. The weather conditions aren't that good. It's cold up here in northern New Jersey right now. So I'm really not sure when I'm going to have to make that first stop, and that'll affect all the following stops. So I really didn't try to plot it out. I'm just going to rock it and see where we end up. But I have to stop at the CCS1 stations. It looks like for the most part, I'm going to be at Electrify America stations. There's an EVgo that I might be able to make, but I think for the most part, it's going to be EA. So this race to Florida really isn't about Kyle's driving skills or how fast he's willing to drive, because we're going to limit our speed to 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. This race is all about Tesla Superchargers versus CCS1 DC fast chargers. Basically, Electrify America versus Tesla. Now, I know on the surface, everyone's going to say, Tom, you don't have a standard chance in the world. Tesla Superchargers are so much better. They're so much more reliable. And that's true. And there's more of them at every site where Kyle's going to roll into these superchargers, and there's going to be 10 stations. I'm going to be pulling into EA stations that have like 4 units and maybe 3 are working at the time. So I might have to wait. We'll see. But I'm not giving up all hope. It's, the bookmakers are giving Kyle the edge, but I think I might be able to beat him down to Daytona. Don't forget, I've been doing this for a while. When I plugged in my first electric vehicle, out-of-spec mom was still changing his diapers. So, don't count me out just yet. We're going to hop in the truck now. I have my friend Pete Bremy as my co-pilot. Out-of-spec Dave is going to be Kyle's co-pilot. We're going to head out in a few minutes and let's see what happens. We're going to be doing updates along the way. And then after this whole race is over, I'm going to hop in my Lightning, spend the night, and then drive back home using exclusively Tesla Superchargers with my adapter. And then we'll be able to compare the same route with the same truck. One way going down with CCS, the other way coming up with Tesla. So you're going to get 2 videos out of this from me, but the first one's going to be all about the race. My next clip is going to be in the truck with Pete on the way, and we'll update you at every charging stop, and we'll talk about how things are going. All right, well, we're out on the highway, cruising along on the New Jersey Turnpike south. We've been driving for about 30 minutes. It's heavy rain here in New Jersey, and it's going to be raining for a good portion of our drive down to Florida, unfortunately, but it is what it is. It's probably going to affect the range a little bit, and that's, we're trying to stop the least amount of times. If weather conditions were perfect, and we watch our speed, we could do this possibly with only 4 charging stops. I think we're going to need the 5th, though. We'll see how things go, because the rain is definitely going to affect the range. It's going to shave, I think, just enough off of our range in between each stop to make us stop that extra time. And that's going to hurt us. But Kyle's got the same condition, so he's got to deal with it also. It's what you get dealt with. So Pete's got the first leg, and there's a specific reason why he has the first leg. But you're going to find that out really soon, probably in the next clip that we post here. We're going to be doing some updates along the way. We're also going to be recording at every charging stop. The first charging stop I have factored in is about 240 miles out. So, and depending on how well we do in this first leg, that's going to determine where I figure we're going to stop in the following charging stops. Because, you know, we have options. And I also have to monitor the Electrify America app to see how busy each station is, because there might be the perfect station for us to stop off at, but if the last 20 minutes I've been noticing it's been full, I don't want to pull up. That will kill us. If we have to pull up and wait to plug in, I know Kyle's probably not going to have to deal with that. Tesla Superchargers, there's more superchargers per location. The only thing that's going to mess with him, though, is the fact that the Lightning needs 2 stalls. It's going to take up 2 stalls because of the charge port location. So he might run into some trouble too, but the advantage definitely there is Kyle with as far as ease of the ability to plug in as soon as you pull up. So many times I go to Electrify America charging stations, I got to wait because they only have 3 or 4 stalls per location, while Tesla has 8 to 10 and sometimes even more. So that'll be interesting. But we're driving along the New Jersey Turnpike. It's raining. We're cruising at about 70 miles an hour now. We got to balance our speed with the range. Obviously, the faster we go, we'll get to the charger quicker. But if we go too fast, we won't make the charging location. And the real goal here is try to make this in only 4 stops. So Pete, you ready? You're up for this?
Sure am. Ready to go. Ready to rock.
Pete's rocking my Lucid hat. I had a Lucid hat at my house, and he was like, I like that hat. I'd throw it on. It's our good luck hat. So
that's long range, Lucid long range hat, right?
Exactly. So we'll be checking in from time to time, and we'll be keeping all the data of the charging stops, everything. I know a lot of people are asking me on Twitter, Tom, could you record how much it cost to charge and how long it took to charge? We're going to have all that data. We've got these charts here that I'm going to fill out at every location, when we pulled in, how many miles we drove, what was the state of charge when we arrived, what was the state of charge when we left, how much time, what did it cost, all that stuff. I'll put all this together in the video so you could really see what it cost me to drive down and what it cost Kyle to drive down. Electrify America charging costs versus Tesla Superchargers. Same vehicle, same distance. All right, well, we'll check back soon, and I think you're going to get a kick out of the next clip. All right, now for our secret weapon. Kyle's got a bag of potato chips for dinner tonight. Neither one of us want to stop for dinner because we want to keep driving, and you know, it's really not enough time to eat when we go to a charging station unless it's just like a bagel or something. But this is New Jersey, and we do pizza in New Jersey. So I have a pizza oven here, which is hot as hell right now. Pete's choking from the steam coming out of it. And I have pizzas. They come from this local pizzeria, the Columbia Inn. Then they sell these little pizza ovens that heat the pizzas up. And they're fresh pizzas that they shrink wrap and then freeze. And you buy them, and it's super thin crust pizza, and it's delicious. So we're going to be cooking pizza from the Ford Pro Power onboard while we drive. All right, Pete, let me get the regular cheese one in. Ooh, that's hot.
I think my ear's on fire.
You hear it sizzling? It's like 300 degrees inside there. The cabin is so hot right now. Pete had to open up the window, but he had to close it so we could record this clip. And it's steamy, and there's like, you know, debris from the last pizza in there, and it was all burning off, and all smoke was coming out of it when I turned it on. But we're gonna eat properly here. You know, no just bags of chips and convenience store junk food. We're doing pizza, and when we're done with that pizza, I've got a pepperoni pizza to drop in. So we're cooking 2 pizzas. We're cruising along. We're on the first leg still, so Kyle's right there in front of us. We're neck and neck. I think we'll at the first charging stop is where we're going to split. We probably won't see each other till we're in Florida. But you know, I know most people are going to say CCS is a disadvantage. I just looked at all the comments on Twitter, and people are like, you know, why are you even trying to race him? You know, Kyle's going to win with the Supercharger Network. Let's see. I'm not counting out Electrify America yet. What do you think, Pete?
I'm not either, to be honest with you, especially with the the time of day we're doing this at night, there's always an advantage to the superchargers having more stations, but now there'll be less traffic tonight, I think. Right. So the chances of us finding an open working station are much better, and they charge at the same rate. So yeah. I think the clue will be that, and how far the stations are off the highway.
Yeah. Kyle and Dave are the reason why we got off to a late start today. We wanted to start 4 hours earlier, and the fact that it took them a little bit longer to get to my house to start is going to hurt them, because we were worried about pulling up to charging stations during rush hour at night, and then being full. We're gonna be charging mostly overnight at this point, so that negates the fact that Tesla Superchargers have such an advantage, because they have like 10 stalls, and we'll be fighting with like 4 stalls per location. So I think that's going to help us.
And if the supercharger stations are busy, Tesla owners have a tendency to park in every other stall, and Kyle needs 2 stalls.
Right. So
that could be a disadvantage too.
That'll be a disadvantage too. Well, we'll see. Well, we're going to wait. It takes 10 minutes to cook from frozen. So when it's just about ready, we'll turn the cameras back on, and you can see how we do this. We're probably about halfway to our first stop, which is going to be somewhere past D.C., Washington, D.C. We're going to get into Virginia, right?
Yeah.
We'll get into Virginia for the first stop. I'm thinking we're going to be somewhere around 240 to 250 miles in. But if the efficiency holds up the way we are now, we're jumping between 1.8 and 1.9 miles per kilowatt hour. If we can maintain close to 1.9, then we can jump past the stop that we're thinking about stopping at now, which was 240 miles. Then there's another one at 259 miles. We could hit that guy up, but it all depends. It is windy. I noticed, I checked my wind app, and we're having like about a 7 mile an hour almost headwind now, so that's gonna hurt us a little bit. But if we can maintain this, we should be able to drive past the one we were planning on stopping at, and then we're on course for only 4 stops, which would really make a big difference. If we can make 4 stops and not get held up at the stations waiting to plug in by someone else, we got a legit chance at beating them. All right, I'm gonna shut this oven off. This pizza's done. Look at that there.
Look at that baby. Yeah, look at that baby.
Nice.
Leave the gun, take the pizza.
Here we go. Nice, fresh Columbia Inn pizza. This is from the Columbia Inn in New Jersey. You can see the sign on the top there. And let me get this. They're really famous for thin crust pizza. It's like paper thin. That's why I brought 2 of them, because 1 pizza per person is barely enough. If we were to split one, forget about it. All right, here we go.
Yeah, you can set that on there.
Yeah, Pete's arm is burning. It's like 400 degrees.
That's right. You have to give me a new State of Charge T-shirt or sweatshirt after this.
There we go. Here. I got a paper plate if you want to play now.
I don't need don't need no stinking plates.
Nice. Oh, you know what I got to do? I'm going to get the pepperoni one right in. I'm going to get the pepperoni cooking.
All right.
Set this up here.
And for those who are concerned, this is Blue Cruise territory, so I can eat my pizza with the hands free here.
Pete's got his hands-free Blue Cruise on. Watch out, Pete. That's super hot. Slide this thing out. There's a pepperoni in there. I don't want to lose it. You got to get every pepperoni. You never want to leave a pepperoni on the table, especially when you're racing Kyle Connor to Florida. All right, on. 10 minutes. All right, the pepperoni will be done in 10 minutes. We are eating in style. Hey Kyle, how are those potato chips these days? And before we jump into the next clip, I want to give you a little insight into what was going on over in Team Connor's vehicle right around the time that I recorded this next clip.
Well, we've just had a quick update with Tom and Pete. We are both in the same situation. They have 81 or 82 miles of range indicated and 82 miles to get to the charger. We have 65 miles of range indicated. Interesting how much more efficient Pete is being than my dad here. And however, we have 67 miles to get to the charger, so a 2-mile gap. So yeah, we're actually drafting a semi at the moment just to make up a little bit of buffer so that we can burn it and we don't have to worry about it later on. You know, so the Supercharger, we're both stopping in Stafford, Virginia, the same town, except we're going to be on the very north side at the Supercharger, and they're going to be at the very south side
of the town.
Of the town,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
right, not of the Supercharger, of
right.
the town. And you know,
I think it's 14 miles south.
So our goal is we just need to get in and out of that charger as fast as possible.
No problem.
Because we got to, we really have to leapfrog them, because we need to be on the road and moving before they, of course, unplug, because we need to get past them.
All right, so a couple of questions for you. First of all, where we're stopping in Stafford, how many stations are there?
20.
Okay, so that's the odds of that. We're gonna get a spot.
There's 17 available right now.
Okay, so we're not gonna. All right, we're gonna be good.
Yep.
And then he's stopping in an EA at a Walmart that has 10.
I believe
stalls?
Stafford's the one that has them all lined up.
Okay. Yeah. I know. I recall it.
I think we've both been there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, but 2 of them he said are showing as down, so that means 8.
Well, that's fine. He'll be okay.
He'll be all right.
Yeah. It's you know, doing this in the middle of the night right now means we're gonna kind of, well, this is still peak time for charging. We're gonna get there at 8:30 p.m. But the next couple charges will be pretty sleepy. But then it's gonna wake up and it's weekend travel. Sunday travel in the southern part of the U.S., which those stations all get full on Sundays.
Yeah.
So that's going to be real interesting for Tom and us down there dealing with the traffic at chargers as we get into South Carolina, Georgia, and eventually Florida. Yeah. So, all right, we will rock and roll. 66 miles to go, 63 indicated now. We got to chill.
65, 63.
But we should probably take the easy pass. So let's do that.
Yeah. All right, so we're at the first stop here in Stafford, Virginia. We made it with 4% state of charge. Pete was a rock star. He's literally a rock star, by the way. And he averaged 2 miles per kilowatt hour on that first leg. We definitely are in the lead, in my opinion. We went 26 miles further than they did on the first leg. And these people behind me here are really the saviors here, because when I pulled in, there's only one working 350 kilowatt DC fast charger, and this Hyundai Ioniq 5 was charging there, as they should be, because the Ioniq 5 is one of those EVs that can accept the power a 350 kilowatt station can deliver, and they'll charge quicker than they would if it was on a 150, which I was monitoring the app and I saw someone was charging there, and Pete was like, you know, it's going to be a bolt sitting there and they're going to be there for like 2 hours. But as soon as we rolled up, I knocked on their window and asked them if they would be kind enough to move, and they obliged very nicely, and they moved over here two slots away, and they're giving me that premium electrons, which we're charging now at 163 kilowatts. Let's take a look at it. And we're already up to 13% state of charge after 4 minutes of charging. As I said, we pulled in with 4% state of charge. So I'm liking our odds so far. I think the Connor boys are gonna go down in flames unless, you know, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, I think, because we know the EA network has had issues in the past, but I think the fact that we're charging overnight is a huge benefit for me, because we're probably not going to run into situations where we have to wait. So that was my biggest concern, because even if there's stations out of order, there's at least a couple of stations open at each site. So I'm feeling good about this right now, and I'll check back in once we're done with this charging stop. We'll talk about how long we took here, the power we took in, what it cost, and all that stuff. Pete's inside Walmart now behind me, and we're gonna see if we could buy a Keurig and plug it into the Pro Power onboard in the truck and make some fresh coffee along the way. So When I check back in, we're either gonna have a nice coffee pot cooking or we'll just talk about the stats of this charging stop. See you then. All right, well, we're back in the Lightning and I have all the statistics from that charging stop. So we pulled into the Stafford, Virginia Electrify America station at a Walmart at 8:54 p.m. We left my house at 4:40 p.m. And we drove 257.7 miles at that point. The state of charge was 4%, so we used 96% of the battery to go 257.7 miles. We charged for 45 minutes and we pulled in 100 kilowatt hour exactly. Well, that was what was dispensed by the charging station. It cost us $35.64 and we left at 80%. So we went from 4% to 80%. I mentioned earlier that we got lucky that the only 350 that was being used, the owners of the vehicle didn't mind and they moved their car over, which was really cool of them. And while we were charging, we ran into the Walmart. We were at a Walmart location, and I picked up a Keurig coffee maker, and some pods and some coffee cups. So at some point, we're gonna plug it into Pro Power onboard, and I'm gonna have a big Keurig here right in the cabin of the truck. And hey, you know, we'll get that energy, that rocket fuel to keep us going through the night. So right now, Kyle is ahead of us. I think by about 10 miles, but we have, you know, we're still at 75% state of charge. He's probably down to like 30% state of charge by now. You know, I think we're ahead of him, even though he's ahead of us, because we've got a lot more energy in the tank, and we're going to drive to the next station. We're going to try to make us 190 miles. We shouldn't have a problem because right now it's saying 208 miles of range. So we're chugging along at like 78 miles an hour now. No, 77 miles an hour. So we should be in good shape, and we'll see what happens if we make that next location. I think we're going to. There is an Electrify America station 134 miles from here. So if we think we can't make it for some reason, which I doubt is going to happen, we can bail and go in that one. But I want to do the one that's 190 miles, drain the battery down again. That's how you win these long trips. Plug in at the lowest state of charge and unplug before the the charger really starts slowing down. We were still pulling 118 kilowatts at 80% state of charge. So you know, I was going to unplug if for some reason we went down to 100 kilowatts or so. I think we're in good shape here. We'll check in when we get to that next charging stop, which is in Rocky Point, North Carolina, at a Sheetz. There's one 350 kilowatt station there. So I'm a little worried about this. This site only has 4 stations, and I think one of them's out of service. So there's only 3 working stations, and only one's a 350. So that could be we could have trouble at this next stop. We'll see. State of Charge is powered by Qmerit. After I've helped you decide which electric vehicle charging equipment you're going to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and let the EV charging installation professionals at Qmerit install it. So Pete and I are at the Sheetz in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. This is our second stop. We're able to grab the only functioning 350 kilowatt DC fast charger here. There is another 350 over here, but it doesn't look like it's functioning right now. And yeah, so we're lucky we're able to grab this one. If we have any shot of beating the Connor boys, we need to get 350 kilowatt stations at every stop. Right now we're about 40 miles ahead of those guys, but they're going to pass us while we're charging. But we're going to leave with a fresh battery and probably only be about 20-30 miles behind them at that time. And by then they'll be less than 40% state of charge. So I'm liking our odds. If things continue the way they are, fingers crossed, anything can happen working with the CCS infrastructure in North America. But so far so good. We're chugging along. All right, we're gonna go inside, grab a cup of coffee now. Catch you guys later. All right, Pete and I are back in the truck. We just left the Sheetz in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. We arrived with 1% state of charge. We really cut it close this time. We charged to 80% state of charge. It took us 47 minutes to go from 1 to 80%. It's a nice, good charging session. We took in 104.6 kilowatt hour. It cost us $37, and I can't read my writing there, 37 and change. I'll put that up on the video. 80%. We arrived at 1226. We left at 115. Our total miles driven when we arrived there was 443 miles, 0.4. So that leg, the second leg, we drove 185.7 miles. That Rocky Mountain Sheets was about 2 miles off of 95. It took us about 3 minutes each way to get to the Sheets and then back to the highway. So that's another 6 minutes. Where the charging stations are located are important. You want them to be as close to the major arteries as possible. You don't want to waste your time on a road trip or a race just getting off the highway and getting to the charging station. We're averaging about 1.9 miles per kilowatt hour now overall on the trip, which is pretty good. Considering we're going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. That's the rules that we set with Kyle. Neither one of us are going to go more than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, and that's what we've capped it at. We haven't driven 10 miles an hour over the speed limit the whole time. There's been times where we slowed it down just to make our charging stop. And in this leg, we've got a little bit of a buffer. Right now, we have about 20 miles above the needed range. So we're going to be able to keep this pinned at 10 miles an hour over the speed limit for a pretty long time, I think. But it's getting cooler out now, and you know, it's overnight. It's 1:30 in the morning, so the battery is warmed up from DC fast charging, but it is going to cool down. So we might not be able to stay 10 over for this whole leg. I'll check back in when we are at the third charging stop. All right, we are at the Walmart in Florence, South Carolina. There's 4 stations here. They're all working, although one of the connectors on one of the 350 kilowatt stations isn't working, but that doesn't matter because we're the only ones here. We arrived at 3:48 in the morning, so I wasn't expecting there to be anyone here, although there's some sketchy people on the other side of the parking lot over by Walmart over there. I don't know if you could see them. I got one eye on them as I'm filming this. I don't know what people are hanging out in a closed Walmart parking lot at 4 a.m., but I'll keep the camera rolling in case anything interesting happens. So yeah, we were ahead of Kyle by, I don't know, I think about 20 miles, but he has passed us now. So now Kyle is in the lead. He's got about another 50 miles before he's going to make his stop. Our next stop is going to be our shortest stop of the whole trip. It's only 108 miles, but I'm still going to charge to 80%. That's been my policy on this whole trip, and I think that's what's been working for us. We are like in a dead heat with Kyle. When we passed him charging at his last stop, he could see us passing the highway. He asked me what our state of charge was, and we were at, I think it was 53%, and he was at 53% while he was charging. So at that moment, and it was almost exactly halfway. So we were halfway here, and we had the exact same state of charge. Pete's getting out of the truck and going for a walk. Hey, Pete. And now that he just passed me now, he just called me. He just passed our exit. He knows where I was charging. He's like, what's your state of charge? And I looked, I think we're at like 33%. And he's like, oh, we're at like 28%. So I'm a few percent ahead of him at this point, but that's how close it is. If nothing happens to really mess either one of us up, this is going to be like 15-minute win or loss. That's all that's going to be the difference between our times driving, you know, more than 1,000 miles from New Jersey to Florida. Him using Tesla only and me using Electrify America only. So if that's the case, you know, it bodes well for Electrify America, in my opinion, because we've always put Tesla up on the pedestal that their charging network is the standard and it always works and it's the best. And, you know, I'm coming down here and kind of proving that EA can do it too. Now I know the fact that we left the time that we left and we're doing most of our charging at night has helped me, because a lot of times these Electrify American sites are backed up because they only have 3 and 4 stations, whereas the Tesla stations have 9, 10, 12 stations, and there's usually an open slot. So I think the fact that we left when we did kind of helped me. But hey, people road trip to all hours of the day, so you know, it's what's fair is fair. All right, we'll do a summary of this stop once I get back in the truck, once we're done charging, and let you know all the little details, how much we paid, how many kilowatt hours, all that stuff. See you then. All right, well, we're back on the road after our third stop, which was at the Electrify America site in Florence, North Carolina. We pulled in there at 3:48 in the morning, and we left at 4:37. We had driven 621 miles up to that point when we pulled in and parked, and that was 177 miles for this leg of the trip. We arrived at 4% state of charge, the same as we did on the first leg, and we charged to 80%, the same as we did on the first stop. We put 102.5 kilowatt hours. That's what the station dispensed. It cost me $39.66, and the actual charging time was 45 minutes. We started at 4%, we ended at 80%. And the time out, I think I mentioned that already. I'm getting a little punch drunk here. Now it's, what time is it? It's 4:55 in the morning. We left at 4:37. And so basically each one of these stops, the total time stopped was 48 minutes on the first stop, 50 minutes on the second stop, 49 minutes on the last stop. So very consistent. And in all of the times, it's taken us a few minutes to get to the station from the highway, and that's starting to add up. It was, I think, 2 minutes on the first stop, 3 minutes on the second stop. This time it took us 4 minutes to get there. So you pay for that twice, 4 minutes going, 4 minutes coming. So that added 8 minutes onto this stop, 6 minutes onto the second stop, and 4 minutes onto the first stop. That's starting to add up now. Some of Kyle's locations are closer to the highway. Tesla does a very good job at locating their superchargers right off the main artery. It's not necessarily the case with Electrify America and other CCS stations. Sometimes you have to drive miles off the highway. And there's Kyle calling me now. Well, that's it for this update. We'll check in when we're right before our next stop.
You know, just like ripping along at 80, and then we're like, 70, 60, 50. So anyway, I kept it pinned at, wide open throttle. It was giving me 2% power, but it was still showing 2 miles of range remaining. And I made it off the exit, and we died on the uphill right before the charger. So my dad and I pushed it, mostly my dad. I got it moving with him, and then I steered it. And we pushed it into the supercharger, and now we're charging. No, we almost needed you. If you check Twitter, you'll see us pushing it into the charger.
Oh my God. So here's the best thing. Pete called it. So we're at that last charging stop. And I'm monitoring you on your speed. And I'm like, wow, Kyle's going 80 miles an hour. And Pete goes, I hope he knows what he's doing because he might run out.
Yeah. Well, hey, we had all the data looked good, but my guess is there must have just been a weak cell in the battery or something hit bottom voltage and bricked it and, shut off the high voltage system.
Kyle, I just want to point out.
I mean, you're already charging.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, we're good. Hey, Tom, listen to this. Kyle's run out of juice now 2 times in his life, both in F-150s.
Yeah, that's right. I've died twice in lightnings.
I think this might be our advantage because, I own this truck and I know it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I guess you should know it runs out with 2 miles left.
All right, stop number 4. We're in Waterboro, South Carolina at, guess what? A Walmart. Who would have thought that? This site has only 4 stations, but 2 of them are 350s. So no one's here. We pulled in at 6:01. So we've had no problems on any of the sites. The last stop is going to be a problem because we're going to get there probably around 9 o'clock in the morning and we might be jammed up. That could cost us, but for now, we're doing good. We pulled in here with 29% state of charge because this was a short stop. Our next stop is another kind of short stop. It's, I think, 135 miles. Then when we're done with that, it's on to Daytona. So we're sticking to our policy of charging to 80%. It's working for us. I think we have a slight edge on Kyle. It's close though, it's amazing. Right about now, he's passing us because we were about 20 miles ahead of him on this leg. And I just checked the glimpse and I think within 5 minutes, he's gonna pass us. But we're gonna be out of here pretty soon because we started at 29%. I mean, we've only been here 13 minutes now, and we're already up to 55%. So, and now it's starting to throttle down. We were pulling close to 170 kilowatts before, and now it's at 132. But I'm gonna charge to 80% again. The Lightning has a great flat curve. It's holding like 123, 124 kilowatts right up to 80%, and then drop off. So we don't need 80% to get to the next leg, and we didn't need it to get to this leg, but I charged 80% in the past stop, so that way we could blast away. We were cruising at our self-imposed limit of 10 miles an hour over, 80 miles an hour the whole way. And I think that makes up for the time that, extra time that I'm spending charging to 80%. We'll see whose policy wins. I know Kyle didn't charge to 80% on all of his stops, and it depends on the EV. Some EVs that have this really high charging curve and then flatten down, it's definitely worth on a long trip to just unplug it 40 or 50%. But the Lightning holds that same charging rate all the way to 80%. So you're either going to charge now or you're going to charge on your next stop. So it's been working so far, and we'll see. We're doing pretty good here. I think we got the Connor boys scared. I hear that they ran out of charge on their last stop, like, I don't know, 500 feet from the charger. And that means they're scared because he pulled out too early on his previous charging session, and he unplugged when he should have stayed for another couple of minutes, and he also pushed the speed a little bit too much, and that means we got those guys scared. They thought this was going to be a walk in the park. The Tesla Superchargers were just going to crush Electrify America, but that's really not what's happening. So they still may win, but if they do, it's going to be really close. But I think we're in good position. I think we're going to beat them. We'll check in when we're done with this charging session, and I'm in the truck, and I'll give you all the details for this specific charging session. All right, well, we just left the Waterboro, South Carolina Electrify America site. We pulled in at 6:01. We were at 29% state of charge because that was a short run. We left at 80%. We're charging at 80% every time. I think that's the right thing to do with this vehicle because of its charging curve on this course. We only had to stay for 20, how long were we there? Let me look here. 28 minutes. We added it cost us $31.30, and I added, where's my energy? 69.5 kilowatt hour. We pulled in at 6:01. We pulled out at 6:31. So it was a short stop. However, we made a little bit of a mistake. Pulling out, it was confusing how to get back out onto the road, and I just followed Google, and the Google Maps didn't take me right back out onto 95. It made us do like a 5-mile detour on these back roads to get onto 95, further down 95. I think that cost us about 5 or 6 minutes. So if we lose by like 5 or 6 minutes, Pete, it was because of what just happened back there. If we lose by like 5 or 6 minutes, Pete, it was because of what just happened back there. So big faux pas. I mean, we don't know the area. We're in this big truck stop, and we followed Google, and it didn't take us directly to 95. So not cool. We're gonna have to make up for it. Pete, you good for stomping on it for a little bit here? Yeah. All right, we're cruising at 80, which is the limit we set. It's a speed limit here, 70, so we're going 10 over. And Pete's been a champ, man. He's driven the whole way so far. He's driven like, let me see what we're at here, Pete. Miles, 735 miles right now, non-stop, just with 4 charging stops. So pretty good. That's Dave calling us out of Spec Dave right now. I'm actually going to decline it, and I'm going to finish this, and I'm going to call him right back. Yeah, we have one more stop to go. It's 135 miles for here. We're going to charge to 80% again, and then we have like 165 or 167 miles to get to Daytona. And that's going to be a little tricky because I don't know if we could blast at 80 miles an hour the whole way. I don't know if we'll be even able to, because once we get into Florida, closer to Daytona, we won't be able to drive that fast. So we're going to need all of it. But this is going to be close, guys. This is going to be really close. If we don't have an issue in this last charging stop, which is going to be in Brunswick, Georgia, If we don't have a problem at that stop, if we can just pull right in, get a 350, plug in like we've done on the first 4, I think we're going to beat them. Even with this 5-minute mistake that we made here, I think we're tracking ahead of them now. They are physically ahead of us, but they have to stop 2 more times. We just have to stop once. So this is looking good for Team CCS. We'll check back in when we are close to Brunswick, or when we're at the Brunswick charging station. We're at the final charging stop in Brunswick, Georgia, and yes, the East Coast Walmart tour continues. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good. Kyle is still behind us. He's gonna pass me in about 5 minutes. And I have already been here charging for 10 minutes now, and I'm at 38% state of charge. Arrived at 18% state of charge, and we have to go about 158 miles. So you don't have to charge to 80%. It was my original plan to charge to 80% and then just drive the maximum speed that we're allowed to all the way down. But I think what I'm going to do is unplug now at around 70 or 75%. We'll still be able to drive maybe 5 over, but that'll be enough to get us 160 miles that we need. And Kyle still has to stop one more time. He's at a relatively high state of charge, though, I think, because he had a really short leg on his last trip, so he didn't burn up too much energy, and then he did stop and juiced up. But he has to stop one more time after us. We're done now after this. This is my last stop, and I'm really feeling good about this. I think Electrify America is going to beat the Tesla Supercharger Network, because, I mean, that's what this is all about. It's not about me versus Kyle driving. You know, I mean, I know a lot about EVs, but I wouldn't take on Kyle in a driving competition. The dude can really rock. But you know, as far as charging, I did not believe this. I told everybody before we start, you know, yeah, Kyle's gonna win, but this is gonna be fun. We're gonna learn something about everything. And I mean, you know, if I do win, this isn't necessarily gonna say, oh yeah, Electrify America's better, but they were better today if we win. And we were definitely helped out by the fact that we did this overnight, and it wasn't during prime time when the EA sites seemed to get clogged up more than the Tesla sites, only because there's a lot more Tesla vehicles, so you would think they would be more clogged up, but Tesla has more locations, and they also have more stalls per location. And Kyle is a little handicapped because he can't access all the Tesla Superchargers. He can only access the V3s, and not even all the V3s. Some of the V3s he aren't authorized to use yet. So, you know, he didn't necessarily have the full power of the Supercharger network behind him. But still, let's see. He still might pull this one off. Kyle's a crafty guy, and don't count him out yet. But at this point now, Pete and I are feeling really good about where we are. Every charging stop we made was flawless. The only glitch we had at all was our first charging stop, where when we pulled up, the only 350 kilowatt unit was being used, and the person quickly moved over. It only took a couple of minutes to move. But since then, every one of our stops, plug in, handshakes quick, car starts charging, repeatable, perfect curve every time. It's almost perfect every single time we charge. There's no variation. You know, it's probably the first time I've taken a trip and used Electrify America where every time I stopped, every interaction with their chargers was nearly perfect. So did I get lucky? Are they improving? I don't know. I'd need more data to say, oh yeah, they're starting to get better. But on this trip, at least, these 5 stops have been perfect, and I can't complain a single iota about the Electrify America charging network on this trip, at least. Okay, gonna finish up charging here and then hop in the truck and see if we can get down to Daytona before the Connor boys. All right, we're on the final leg. We just pulled out of the final charging stop. That was our 5th charging stop. We had to stop 5 times, driving 1,000 miles from New Jersey down to Daytona Beach, Florida. But Kyle and Dave had to stop 1 extra time than we did. So they are still driving. They're ahead of us now. I think they're about 20, 25 miles ahead of us, maybe even 30 miles ahead of us. But they still have to stop 1 more time to charge. We just don't know how long they have to stop. Will we get to their stop point and pass them before they get out onto the highway? We don't know that. We've been tracking each other on, what's it called? Glimpse. For this whole trip, but for the last segment we agreed we'll shut off the tracking so we don't know where each person is. So I have no idea where they are, but I know they are about 25 miles ahead of us. So let's talk about the last charging stop, because we've been doing all the charging stops. We went to Brunswick, Georgia. We're at the Walmart there. We got there at 8:24 in the morning. We had driven 860 miles at that point. For that leg was only 136 miles. Our state of charge on the arrival was 18%. We accepted, or the station delivered 78.9 kilowatt hour. It cost me $10.89. We were there for 35 minutes. Well, we were on the charger for 35 minutes, and we left at 76% state of charge. I didn't wait to 80 because we have plenty to get there in the end, and I didn't want to waste time. So all in all, we took 38 minutes to park, get out, activate the charger, finish it, and then pull out. But then there was also another delay, which might hurt us. It definitely hurt us, but it could cost us. This Electrify America site was 3 miles off the highway, and it took us over 6 minutes each way to get to and from it. So that's 12 minutes. One of the things that Kyle has as an advantage, Tesla is fantastic at their locations for their superchargers, and most of his stops were right off the highway. I mean, he just pulled into a parking lot practically, and we've had to drive. I mean, I'm going to total this all up. It's probably more than a half an hour of time that we drove just from the highway to the charging station, and then from the charging station back to the highway, where I bet Kyle spent less than 10 minutes doing it. So I think we got hit with like a 20-minute penalty because of the location of the Electrify America sites versus the Tesla Superchargers. But that said, I can't complain anything about Electrify America. This has been the best Electrify America experience I've ever had. Every single one of these 5 stops were perfect, and every charging session, it was nearly identical. I could almost just look like we copied each one. The stations delivered the maximum power, no glitch. They connected relatively quickly, and never had a single problem with them. This was as perfect as we could do, and we needed that to beat the Tesla Supercharger Network. We don't know if we're going to beat it, but I knew we had to be perfect on Electrify America if we had any chance of beating Kyle with the Lightning on the Supercharger Network and the adapter. So that's where we are now. We're just about ready to cross the Florida state line. Kyle's already in Florida, and we just don't know at this point how long he has to stop to get enough energy to make to the final destination. So it's going to be fun, but I think we're going to win. I really do. And I'm kind of giddy about this because I never imagined. When we left, I was like, yeah, he's going to beat us by like an hour and a half, and but this is going to be fun, and we'll learn stuff about it along the way. And this guy has driven the whole way, and I was going to drive this last leg, but he was like, nope, I got this. I've been this far, 1,000 miles. Ironman Pete has done it, and we're averaging, let me see what we're averaging here, Pete. For the whole trip, we averaged 1.8 miles per kilowatt hour, and that's lowered in the last leg or two because we've been driving at the max that Kyle and I agreed upon, because we had some short legs, and we were allowed to just burn some extra kilowatt hour. But up until that, for 3/4 of the trip, we were averaging 2 miles per kilowatt hour, which is fantastic for this big, heavy, bulky truck with a terrible CDA. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah.
We're gonna make it? We're gonna beat them?
I'm very superstitious.
And I'm not at all, but
I think so. I think we're gonna win.
Well, it's no small part on you, because you drove this whole way, allowed me to figure out where we're gonna stop, do some social media stuff. We've been tweeting along the way. We've been calling Kyle and talking to them. I was able to make some pizzas, make some coffee. So, we actually had a blast. This has been a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I figured it would be, but this has been fun, and I think Kyle feels the same way. So, all right, next stop is going to be at the final destination. Hopefully when we're pulling in that parking lot, there's not an antimatter blue Lightning sitting there with Kyle and his bleep-eating grin on his face. But you never know, because that guy can figure out a way of pulling it out of his you-know-what. You know, I think we're ahead now. I think we're going to win, but it really wouldn't surprise me if he's sitting there with his stupid Starbucks green whatever drink that he gets all the time, and with a big smirk on his face. So we'll see when we pull up, and we'll see you guys at the finish line.
Sounds good.
All right, we're about to turn into the Buc-ees in Daytona Beach. We changed our final destination from the Daytona International Speedway to this Buc-ees because it's biker week in Daytona, and we're afraid that they'd all be at the Speedway. We wouldn't be able to pull in. So now we have to find the Mercedes Chargers here. Why don't you go around this way? And let's see, we're pulling, we don't know if they're here. We have no idea if they're ahead of us.
Could that be those white things up over there?
It's possible. No, that would be blocked if it was. Go down. No, go down. I would go down this way almost.
Straight?
And all right, go this way. Go this way. Go left. I don't know what that's, left or right. I'm tired. We haven't slept in 24 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know where the Chargers are. They could like pull in and get in ahead of us now. They might even be sitting at the Chargers. We don't know. We have no idea where they are. I think we're first, but this is like a traffic jam here. I don't like this way, but it's probably out on that side of the lot because this is where the gas is, so it's probably over there. Mm-hmm. There's a row of Tesla Superchargers and a row of Mercedes DC fast chargers. Dave said to meet them at there. So this guy's trying to park. Can you drive around him?
Yeah,
oh, he had his blinker on.
This one's backing out.
Yeah. We got to get to the other side of the Buc-ees. There's not traffic over there, and then we could find where we're supposed to park. I have no clue. Been driving around the parking lot. Maybe go to the end, and then we'll go down.
Yeah.
Jeez, this place is huge. I've never been to a Buc-ees. I'm going to end this, exit out of this. Down this way.
There's Chargers back
then
there.
Go over there, because the Teslas are this way. Go around this guy here.
Yeah. I don't know what. All right.
The Superchargers are down there, so let's go over here. If you said you saw Chargers.
I saw Chargers. I don't know what they were.
It must be the Mercedes ones, because it's Superchargers.
Over there. Yeah, that's the Mercedes.
They're there.
Oh. They beat us.
Holy cow. I wonder how long they've been here. Pull in. Wow, I can't believe they beat us.
I can't either.
All right, let's get out. Roll the window down.
Here come the excuses.
No excuses. How long have you been here?
6 minutes.
6 minutes? Okay, yeah. Well, 3 minutes was us trying to find the park where it was. We were over there. We're on that side of the parking lot driving around. So literally.
Congratulations, though. We did this. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Did you drive the whole time, Pete?
Yeah. Pete drove the whole way.
Smokes, you need to go take a nap or something, dude.
So we finished up with 11 miles of range left, 5% state of charge. So what was your final state of charge?
6%.
So okay, I was going to say if you went down to 0, like I was going to say I charged too long, but I didn't. We did the same amount.
I started with one less and we ended with one more. But I don't know how we won because we had 450 amps versus 500. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's all station location. That ending one off the highway screwed you.
That last one took us, I think, 13 minutes to get to and get out.
Oh, well, then that's the difference.
It was 13 because it was 6 minutes one way and 7 minutes the other way.
I think it all came down
total. Yeah. 6 minutes one way, 7 minutes the other way.
And that other one too, where Google screwed us up too. That didn't help it any either.
We had another one where we couldn't get out of the parking lot, and Google made us go, like said, this is the way, and we drove 5 miles on a back road before we got to 95. Mm-hmm. And it took 10 minutes.
So we were wondering whether Google knew something we didn't know.
We're like,
that you
I didn't want to turn
around
and try to go out that way, you know. But that's what you get when the stations aren't right on the highway. When you got to go off, you know. So yeah.
So your truck went down to 0% just fine, 1% just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine shut off
yeah.
with 2 miles remaining.
Yeah.
We had
Well,
more,
we never went to 2 miles remaining.
2 miles. We had like 4 miles.
We had 4
I think,
miles
4
remaining
miles.
when we went down to 1%.
Yeah, I think I'm letting that just calibrate a little bit. I think the BMS was confused. So, but the truck's been, wow, Tom, these are amazing road trippers.
Kyle, you've heard me
comfortable.
raving about
Yeah.
my
I see
Lightning
why.
for years. I love this truck.
Yeah.
I mean, this was so comfortable on this
Well,
drive.
you don't have to worry about thermal management of the battery. You charge to 80% and you just go. There's no benefit of leaving early.
A lot of people say that the Lightning doesn't charge good. Yeah, it could charge faster.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure,
we give it that.
absolutely.
It could charge faster. But for what it does, it is a you know exactly what you're going to get,
Yeah.
and it's not terrible.
No,
I mean,
no.
you know, we didn't stop more than, you know, this was our stops, our charging times. 45 minutes, 47 minutes, 45 minutes, 28 minutes, 35 minutes. We drove 1,000 miles.
Right.
Yeah.
That should be,
you know,
that should be a, 75% shorter. But we'll get there one day.
Yeah, well, we'll get there.
Yeah.
But listen,
But it's not bad. I'm fine.
it was
Yeah.
perfect for us. We needed
You
that
need the
40
break.
minutes
Yeah.
to get up and walk around.
Never mind the
Yeah.
truck.
Yeah.
I needed the. I mean, I get up and go for a walk and stretch
But
out.
Ford
and stuff.
built one great vehicle.
Yeah.
The Blue Cruise is amazing. I mean, Pete, what was your impression of all of the driver assistance and the ride quality?
The ride quality to this. I mean, this is
Yeah,
not
it's
the first
amazing.
time I've driven this truck. I've got quite a few miles on this truck, and I love it. I absolutely love it. The only thing that makes me nervous is the Blue Cruise's lane centering thing.
Yeah.
I always felt like I'm too close
To
to
the
the
right.
to the right.
I
When are we
agree.
going to get 1.2? You
Yeah,
know,
no
like
lane changes or anything in these
yeah,
yet.
and-
By the way, Tom,
Yeah.
we drove from so this is the Tom to Buc-ees East Coast race.
Yeah, this is the new route.
This
by
is
the
the
way.
new route, right? This is a legendary.
How many miles did you?
1,003.
And we
drove
were 1,000
11.7 miles more.
More.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Look,
Oh, yeah.
1,000, almost 1,015,
and that's because of
1,014.7.
the location of the CC.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, that's
Pete.
how we won.
Pete, you know what you got to do? We
That's
forgot
it.
the timer's still rolling.
Repeat if I say, and Pete's driving. Hold on, here come the excuses. Here come the excuses.
How long have you been here?
6 minutes.
6 minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, 3 minutes was us trying to find the park. We were over there. We were on that side of the parking lot driving
Yeah.
around. So
Wow,
literally-
congratulations
you
though.
were
We did
really
this. That was
close to us.
amazing.
Yeah.
Did you drive the whole time, Pete?
Yeah. Pete drove
Holy
the whole way.
smokes, you need to go take a nap or something, dude.
So we finished up with 11 miles of range left, 5% state of charge. So what was your final state of charge?
6%.
So okay, I was going to say if you went down to 0, like
Yeah.
I was going to say I charged.
No,
but
I
I didn't. We did
I
the-
started with one less and we ended with one more. But I don't know how we won because we had 450 amps versus 500. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's all station location. That ending one off the highway screwed you
that
guys.
last one took us, I think, 13 minutes.
Yeah.
To get to and get out.
Oh, well, then that's the
It
difference.
was
There you go.
Because it was 6 minutes one way and 7 minutes the other way.
I think it
Oh,
all
so
came
13
down.
minutes total round
Total,
trip.
yeah. 6 minutes one way, 7 minutes the other way.
one too, where Google screwed us up too.
Yeah.
didn't help it
We had another one where we couldn't get out of the parking lot, and Google made us go, like said, this is the way, and we drove 5 miles on a back road.
Oh my God.
Before we got to 95, and it took 10 minutes.
And we were wondering whether Google knew something we didn't know,
we're
that
like,
you
I didn't
couldn't
wanna
get back
turn
on the
around and
highway,
try to
turn
go out
around.
that way,
and-
you know. But that's what you get when the stations aren't right on the highway, when you
Yeah.
got to go off, you know. So yeah.
So your truck went down to 0% just fine, 1% just fine.
yeah.
Mine shut off with 2 miles remaining. Yeah.
Well, we never went to 2 miles remaining.
Oh,
We had
okay.
like 4
We
miles.
had 4
I think,
miles
4
remaining when we went
Okay.
down to 1%.
Yeah, I think I'm letting that just calibrate a little bit. I think the BMS was confused. So, but the truck's been, wow, Tom, these are amazing road trippers.
So
You've
comfortable.
Heard me raving about
Yeah.
my
I see
Lightning
why.
For years, I love this truck.
Yeah.
I mean, this was so comfortable on this.
Well, you
drive.
don't have to worry about thermal management of the battery. You charge to 80% and you just go. There's no benefit of leaving
A
early.
lot of people say that the Lightning doesn't charge good. Yeah, it could charge faster.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure,
we'll give it that.
absolutely.
It could charge faster. But for what it does, it is a you know exactly what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And it's not terrible.
No,
I mean,
no.
You know, we didn't stop more than, you know, this was our stops, our charging times. 45 minutes, 47 minutes, 45 minutes, 28 minutes, 35 minutes. We drove 1,000 miles.
Right.
Yeah.
That should be,
You know?
if that should be a, 75% shorter, but we'll get there one day.
Yeah, well, we'll get there.
Yeah,
But listen,
but it's not bad. I'm fine.
it was
Yeah.
perfect for us. We needed
You
that
need the
40
break.
minutes
Yeah.
to get up,
You know,
walk around.
but never mind the truck.
Yeah.
I needed the break too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get up and go for a walk and stretch out.
But
and
Ford
stuff.
built one great vehicle. The Blue Cruise is amazing. I mean, Pete, what was your impression of all of the driver assistance and the ride quality?
Yeah, the ride quality of this. I mean, this is
Yeah,
not
it's
the
amazing.
first time I've driven this truck. I've
Yeah.
got quite a few miles on this truck, and I love it. I absolutely love it. The only thing that makes me nervous is the Blue Cruise's lane centering thing.
Yeah.
I always felt like I'm too close
To the right.
To the right.
I
When
agree.
are we going to get 1.2?
Yeah, no lane changes or anything in these yet.
And by the way, Tom,
Yeah.
we drove from your, so this is the Tom the Buc-ees East Coast race.
Yeah, this is the new route,
This
by
is
the
the
way.
new route, right? This is a legendary.
How many miles did
1,003. You
And we
drove
were
11.7 miles more.
more?
How many
Because
more?
of that.
Look,
Oh, yeah.
1,000, almost 1,015,
And that's
1,014.
because of the location of the system.
Yeah, well, that's how we won.
Pete, you know what you got to do? We
That's
forgot
it.
the timer's still rolling.
Okay, well, we'll let you guys do your thing, but we'll catch up at the end. But that's great.
Okay, so Pete, we thought we had it.
Yeah.
We really thought we had
I
it.
did.
I
I
can tell you.
kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to jinx it. I thought we had it.
Yeah.
I thought we had them beat.
I was saying 5 minutes. They're going to roll in 5 minutes after
Yeah.
us. The other way happened.
Yeah.
We rolled in. They were here for 6 minutes, but I counted a 3-minute win because we spent 3 minutes clogged up over there.
Trying to get through the people coming in and out of the parking
And Pete
spaces.
did all the driving. 1,000 miles. Let me do all the video work, all the social media stuff, which, we were tweeting all night long. We were posting stuff.
Yep.
I was shooting videos all the little clips that you see in this video, I had to do them while we were driving. I'm sorry the lighting wasn't better in the cab, but we did this overnight. I did the best I could with the lighting. So, how you feeling after driving 1,000 miles?
Actually, I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
It was a little rough around 3 to 5, 4 to
Yeah.
6 in the morning. It was getting a little rough.
Yeah, I was nodding off a little, but
when
you
we
kept driving.
we stopped around 6 a.m. shortly after, somewhere in that vicinity, and we got out and I walked around a little bit, and
We're good.
after when the sun came up, when it became light, it was like a second wind.
What do you think about the Electrify America network? Do you have any different feelings now that, because you're really not, Pete owns a Tesla Model 3, you
Yeah.
never really used that?
I've never used it.
But everything just worked, right?
Yeah, well, I've been with you on your charge
Yeah.
videos.
And you've seen me have difficulty
yeah,
and stuff, I know.
I've seen
But
the
this trip
difficulties. This was flawless.
was flawless.
It was flawless.
I'm if we couldn't win with this trip, you're not going to win because everything was perfect. And
If those stations had been closer to the highway,
we would have won.
We would have won.
Yeah, I'm
for
gonna
sure.
total up
Hands
all
down.
that and do a
Hands
whole
Hands
comparison. Actually, that's gonna probably be at the end of this video. I'm gonna go over all the stats and everything. I'm gonna get Kyle's stats and Dave's stats, and we'll put them together and compare.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll really analyze. We'll figure out where did we lose it.
Yeah.
All right, listen, thanks, Pete. That was awesome.
My pleasure, Tom.
Next, I'm going to talk to Dave and then Kyle, and then
Okay.
we'll wrap things up.
All right,
And then
sounds good.
now we got to drive home tomorrow.
Yeah. We got to do it again.
All right, let's get a good night's sleep.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Awesome.
At a Spec Dave. So we came up short. They beat us, fair and square. Although by this much.
I can't believe
it's
how
crazy.
close. When you think about this, we drove 1,003 miles.
Yeah, and we drove 1,014.
Yeah, so 11 more miles. It's all because of the charger locations. But what was crazy to me was how neck and neck we were the whole time.
Yeah.
It was like leapfrog,
passed us, we
leapfrog,
passed
and
you,
then
yeah.
when you were passing us, we were at the same
We
state
were
of
calling
charge.
each other, and we were at the same state of charge on the charger and driving.
I remember this
It was
one. I don't remember.
dead heat.
You were like, what state of charge are you at? As you're flying by,
Yeah.
54%, and we looked, and we were like, we're at 54%.
This was literally a dead heat.
Yeah, I thought for sure we were going to kick your ass. Okay, just because of my experience with EA in the past, when you go there and
I know.
and you know what, you had a great experience. So-
Listen, all the commenters, all our followers said, oh, Tom drew the short straw. No way, Tom, forget it, throw it. Kyle's going to be there 3 hours before you. And I believed you guys were going to beat me. I thought you might beat me by like an hour, honestly.
Wow.
But I knew if everything broke right, I had a fighting chance. And everything broke right for me. And I had a fighting chance.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, literally minutes.
Yeah.
Minutes. If we didn't have that 12-minute like in and out to get to that last charging station, we'd have been here 3 or 4 minutes before you.
You would have been. So
that was the
we
difference.
arrived here 11:03. You showed up here at 11:09, but you were over on the other side.
We had no idea where to go. This is a huge. I've never been to a Buc-ees.
I love
and they
Buc-ees.
said, meet us at the Mercedes Chargers. And me and Pete pulled in way over there. We went down to the other side, then we turned around and we got stuck in traffic in the front.
Yeah.
And we're sitting and waiting. And then I saw the Teslas and I'm like, oh, go down there.
Yeah.
And Pete goes, no, I see other Chargers down there. I said, oh, so we'll go there. We turned, and when we turned that corner there, we saw you guys here and I was like, they're there.
So on 1,000 miles, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah. Good job.
Awesome.
Listen,
Great seeing you.
let's go have some beers. Is it beer time yet?
I gotta go home.
Oh, that's
I gotta go to work
You're
tomorrow.
flying out.
I gotta find. I don't even know where I'm flying out of.
We're gonna find a bar to have some beers.
Yeah. Well.
Listen, thanks, and that was awesome.
Awesome.
We got to do something like this again sometime.
Absolutely. All right.
Take care. All right. So Kyle, this was your idea. You called me and you're like, you want to race me to Florida? And I'm like, yeah. When are we doing? What are we doing it in? And and the funny thing is, Kyle didn't throw out, well, who would use the Tesla and who would use the CCS?
I really didn't care.
I volunteered to use CCS.
Yes.
And I was like, I can do this, and I can make it competitive. And we did, whereas I didn't think it was going to be competitive early on. But now understanding that the Ford NACS adapter and the stations, they're not all live, all the software's not worked out.
Yeah.
So you had a little bit of a handicap there. It wasn't like I was racing a Model X.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's all fair.
It was interesting. Same car, different networks.
Exactly.
And again, it's day one, so I'm sure more chargers will be added.
Yeah.
But we had some limited superchargers that we could pick from.
Yeah, I know. You had to pick and choose where you were going. I mean, we had to make some decisions on where to stop too.
Right.
But you had it a little bit harder. But what I had an anxiety about, down charger anxiety and block charger anxiety, because one of the problems with some of the EA sites is there's only 3 or 4 cabinets and the stations, and sometimes one doesn't work and sometimes one's blocked. I know that you were pulling up and always having 7 or 8 or 9 stations.
And it turned out we had the opposite problems.
Yeah.
Because you had open stations,
Yeah.
whereas we had to negotiate with Tesla owners, drive on curbs at one. The other ones are just not set up for the native port location on this. The short cables are a definite problem. The adapter, I dropped it once, it ended up underneath the middle of the car. We had to back up the truck. I was crawling underneath it to get it. It was just cumbersome. You have to use 2 hands every time. Yeah. But ultimately, what I think from my perspective this does is, my first choice if I'm driving a Lightning is I'm going to do a Tesla Supercharger. And if it's full, I can go to the EA down the road. Yeah. You can go anywhere you want.
That's what this is all about. And you and I are splitting hairs. We 3 minutes out of 1,000 miles made a difference. Nobody else cares about that. If anybody had either one of our charging experiences on a 1,000-mile ride, they'd be happy because they charged, it worked, and they got here. So the last question I want to ask you. Now, I know you've driven plenty of Lightnings. You know how I always talk about how I love my Lightning on the podcast and everything,
Absolutely.
and I really do.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love it for is the long drives. Whenever we take it up to Vermont or Canada, Meredith, my wife, is like Lightning.
Yep.
And we have other choices, And do you have a little bit more of a appreciation for the Lightning, or were you coming in and you knew what it was and you didn't really have any more appreciation?
It's my first Lightning road trip. So I've done the range test, the charging test, a couple little drives here and there, but this is where I really got to appreciate the vehicle. And I think even beyond the vehicle, if we did this 5 days ago, Tom, we could not use 2 different networks to get down here. So that's we've more than doubled the different ways that you can travel. That's huge.
That's huge.
And it's cool that Ford's the first one to do it. So first of all, I like the people at the company. I'm glad that you did the interview thing with Jim. I don't know if that's up yet, but that's cool.
I have a full interview with Jim Farley coming up on the channel really soon. I give him a lot of credit. I'm very complimentary to Jim. I think he deserves credit.
Totally.
Because nobody wanted to make that call. No CEO wanted to be the first one to go out there. And I even asked him this question. I'm like, did you get crap from the others? I asked him, I said, did like Mary Barra call you at 3 a.m. yelling at you? I asked him that, you know, so, but, you know, it disrupted the whole industry, and it took some cojones to do that, and I give him credit because it wasn't an easy decision.
Yeah, so I think first of all, you know, this trip wouldn't have been possible without someone like Jim getting access to the Supercharger network. The rest of the industry wouldn't be switching. I've learned that charge port location is a bigger deal than even in Europe. And I think having the charge port so far back hurts. So that's something that in my head I kind of brushed off before this trip, and here we are like negotiating Tesla Superchargers, and there was a couple that we were able to park perfectly. You'll see it on your way up. But the Lightning itself, regardless of how awesome the people are and everything, this is an amazing road tripping vehicle. I still think, you know, the charging curve is great. The boost thing, okay, it needs to be twice as fast.
It could be faster.
It should be sitting at 300 kilowatts instead of 120.
It could be better.
But you know, just look at what Silverado's doing. It's a bigger battery, but you know, Taycan's doing crazy stuff. Really need to focus on fast charging. But the comfort of the vehicle is amazing. The Blue Cruise I love.
Just float along.
It just goes, and it's quiet. The road
It's
noise
so
is
quiet.
really insulated. You know, and honestly, because I road trip my Rivian a ton, I'm just tight in the Rivian. This, so you can relax. And I mean, my dad and I were both big dudes, and like we had no.
And you're
problem.
still like you're sitting this far
like,
apart.
Hey, can you go into that zip code and pick that thing up for me?
It's so big. I was able to put a pizza oven between me and Pete.
That was the funniest thing.
Cook pizzas. So while we came in a few minutes late, we ate better. We had fresh coffee. And you know what? I wonder if the energy I used to cook pizzas and make coffee was enough to cause me to lose this.
Well, we were thinking
if it
about
was,
that.
That's okay. It was worth it.
Well,
it was worth it.
No question, your truck, even with the pizza thing, was more efficient than ours. But the charging was the same. So maybe our Tano actually was worse for efficiency than not. I don't know. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you can
We're really splitting hairs.
What we've learned is you've doubled the possibilities, at least, of where you can go and charge, and that's just peace of mind. And that's what it comes down to.
I can't wait till all the companies have this access. You know, I mean, it's great that Ford has it now, but
it should just be everyone.
Yeah, and it's going to happen.
Everywhere.
It's going to take some time, and there's going to be some issues in the next 3 or 4 years. We know there's going to be skinned knees. There's going to be people are going to be making mistakes. It's going to be some pain, but fast forward 5-6 years down the road, the industry in North America is going to be better off because we're coalescing around this one connector.
Totally.
And you know, so I'm happy that we did the first comparison test with it. And listen,
this
thanks.
was the first
dude.
road trip, dude, with the NACS adapter.
I know,
that was amazing.
This was great.
And
Good
I'm
job.
really curious because you'll have the experience of both, right? You're going to turn around and do NACS
tomorrow morning. I'm driving home 1,000 miles with Pete, and I'm only going to use Tesla stations, and I'll make a second video comparing all my data and everything.
Yeah, and that's going to be really cool to hear your feedback, because I think actually a lot of the EA sites, while there may not be at as premium of location, the cable length, the way you get around, it's nice. Yeah, we were tight.
Don't forget, I've done the Magic Dock with my Lightning a few times, so I'm already used to how you have to
just
deal
hit
with
the front camera and go until you basically hit it. Yeah, it was amazing. Thanks for offering, being willing to do this.
Nah, this was great. Anytime. Listen, there's nothing better than collaborating with Kyle. We have fun. We produce good content. You know, people seem to like it because we always get good views when we do something
Twitter
together.
With this whole thing, people
exactly.
were tracking us.
I know,
it was
they were
so
tracking.
funny.
They were kind of mad that we cut off the thing, but we had to do that because we really didn't want to know who was ahead. That would have ruined the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I feel bad. I wish we could have left it open for people to see, but not us. But there's no way to do that. You
we could have just not checked, but then
we wouldn't have trusted each other. No way. He'd have been checking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So anyway, listen again. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
I'll see you at the podcast on Friday.
That's right. Podcast every Friday. Batteries included.
Batteries included. Okay, so I'm back home now, and I've had time to digest what happened there. I really thought we had them. I thought we were going to pull in, and they were going to pull in like 4 or 5 minutes after us, but the Connors snuck in there ahead of us. And it's crazy when you think about this. Over 1,000 miles and over 18 hours of driving, and I pulled into those Mercedes DC fast chargers 6 minutes after Kyle did. But it was actually a little bit closer than that, as we alluded to while we were talking. If you notice in the video, I ran that timer from the time I pulled into the parking lot to the time that I parked next to those guys. It was over 2 minutes. Now, you would say, well, they had to do this also, but they didn't. I actually talked to Dave about this, and they entered through a different entrance than we did. Now, I'd never been to Buc-ees before. Quite honestly, I'd never even heard of it. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was like a Wawa or Sheetz. Like, we're going to be pulling into this parking lot and I'd immediately see the DC fast chargers. If I had known how big this complex was, I would have done like a Google Earth view and tried to figure out where it was so I would know how to get in, which I'm sure they did, because Dave pulled in right on the side where the charges are. And as you could see, we took over 2 minutes to wade through that parking lot and even find the chargers. This is an enormous complex. There's over 400 parking spaces. There's 104 gas pumps at Buc-ees, and it was biker week, so it was probably a little bit busier than usual. So as you could see, it was just a madhouse. It was like pulling to the parking lot of the Super Bowl and trying to find somebody. So that added more than 2 minutes of time. And so what I did was I took a overhead Google Earth view of the complex so you could see exactly how this happened. So let's take a look at it now. All right, so here's the overhead view of the complex. You can see the building, the big, large white mass there with like air conditioning equipment on the top, all the parking spaces. To the left of it are those 2 rows of pumps, 104 gas pumps. So I probably guess each one of those has around 50 or 52 gas pumps. I've never seen so many gas pumps in my life. On the side here in the front, on the left, you could see that's the finish line. That's where the Mercedes DC fast chargers are located. Now let's take a look at how Dave and Kyle entered the parking lot. They came in on this entrance over here and just basically drove down the entrance ramp, turned left, and the chargers were there. They didn't have to deal with any kind of traffic or anything. Now this is where we pulled in, on the other entrance. As you saw in the video, we came in, we turned right, we were kind of trying to figure out where these chargers were. We drove up a little bit, then we turned left, and we drove in front of the front entrance of Buc-ees. And as you could see there was a car trying to park and we were stuck behind him. We kept driving straight, we went by the gas pumps, and that's when Pete noticed to the left that there were some kind of chargers there. He didn't know exactly what they were, but I figured it had to be them. So we turned left, and as we started driving down that aisle, that's where we saw their F-150 Lightning parked in the corner, and we realized they were there ahead of us. So while they just pulled into the lot and turned left and parked, we had to wade through all those people and traffic. And it added about 2 minutes onto our time. So they said that we arrived 6 minutes after they got there. I'm going to put the official time as 4 minutes. I'm taking those 2 minutes back, because if I'd have known the complex was so big like that, I would have suggested like a different meeting point where we didn't have to try to figure out where to meet. I had no idea that place was so huge. And by the way, it's really cool inside. If you've ever been to a Buc-ees, the food was amazing, pulled pork sandwiches and so forth. And I mean, it's just a ridiculous place. And I'm sure the people that have been there know what I'm talking about. So, hey, they won 1,000 miles, 18 and a half hours of driving, and they beat us by about 4 minutes. How do you get any closer than that? That is just nuts. But we did learn that under the right conditions, Electrify America charging stations can be just as effective as Tesla Superchargers. Now, I know there's a lot of consideration here, particularly the fact that we left when it was dark. Well, the majority of the trip was overnight. And the biggest problem I encounter with Electrify America chargers, in addition to them not all being functional and the fact that there's only like 4 or 5 per location, is that the utilization is pretty high now with a lot of electric vehicles on the road. And they're almost always full, or there might be one station open, and it wasn't going to be the 350, chances are. And we needed 350 kilowatt DC fast chargers to have any chance with Kyle. If we didn't have those, it was going to add another 10 minutes probably onto each one of our stops. And I mean, that's like an hour. So I knew I had to get 350s, and I couldn't pull up and be blocked by cars. I mean, I was prepared, if all the stations were taken, I was prepared to pull out my wallet and just offer somebody, hey, here's $50, just could you move over and let us pull in here and charge? I actually offered the Ioniq 5 owners in that first station $20 if they would move to another station, and they just laughed and said, you don't have to pay us, you know, we'll move over for you. So that was really nice of them to do that, and they did it pretty quickly. Probably only took about 2 minutes from the time I got out of the car for them to move for me to plug in. So there's 2 more minutes that I lost. If I would have just been able to pull right in, now we're talking like a minute or 2 difference. But I'm going to go over all the trip details next, and then we'll talk about the few things that happened that cost us this trip. There's 4 or 5 things that if they didn't happen, we would have gotten there just a couple minutes before those guys. So, I mean, that's what happens on these long trips. And Kyle and Dave have their own things that went wrong that they could have arrived there earlier, like when they ran out. I mean, that's a major faux pas, but half wasn't their fault because Kyle said there was 1% state of charge left and it was still showing, I think it was 4 miles or 6 miles, something like that. No, 2 miles, he said. So, you know, the vehicle shouldn't have shut off like that. If it was truly had 1% state of charge, it should not have ran out the way it did. So, I mean, that kind of wasn't their fault. But, you know, when you push it like that, that's what happens. We pushed it. The first 3 stops we made, we pulled in at 4%, 1%, and 4%. So we were draining it down pretty well also. So, okay, well, next up, let's take a look at my trip details and go over everything that happened on this trip and break it down, cost to charge, all that stuff. And let's take a look at that now. So it was 4:40 p.m. on Saturday, March 2nd, when we left my house. We arrived at Buc-ees in Daytona at 11:09 a.m. the next morning. So the total trip time for me was 18 hours and 29 minutes. The total driving time while we were actively driving on the road was 15 hours and 9 minutes. That's because my total charging time was 3 hours and 20 minutes. Kyle and Dave needed 21 minutes more charging time, and it took them 3 hours and 41 minutes total charging in the 6 stops they made. Included in that driving time was the time it spent us to get off the highway to get to the charging location, and then from the charging location back to the highway. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later. That was 35 minutes. The total miles that we drove was 114 miles. The total miles that Kyle and Dave drove was 102 miles. So we actually drove 12 miles further than they did, most likely because of the charging locations and the fact that we had to go so far off the highway. In the 5 charging stops that we made, the stations dispensed 455.7 kilowatt hour. The total cost for those 5 charging stops was $157.07. Now, I did fill my battery at my house before I left, and that would cost $20, approximately $20, because I pay about 15 cents per kilowatt hour, and I put somewhere around 130, 135 kilowatt hour into the pack on a complete 0 to 100% charge. So I thought I'd add that in there to come up with the total cost for driving from New Jersey to Florida, 1,014 miles. For me, it was $177.07. And that works out to 17.5 cents per mile. Now, I will note that if I had done this whole trip on my home charging cost, it would have cost me about 8 cents per mile. That's the difference that it is between charging at home and charging in public. It was more than twice as expensive for me to make this trip using public infrastructure. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this later with the pricing. I'm on the Electrify America Price Plus plan, where I pay a monthly fee to get a reduced charging rate. If somebody wasn't on that Price Plus plan and did the same trip, it would have cost them about 25% more. Both teams averaged 1.8 miles per kilowatt hour over the entire trip. For a while, we were ahead. We had a better consumption rate. We were averaging 1.9 and even 2.0 miles per kilowatt hour for a good portion of the trip. But the last couple legs, we stepped it up and we're really at the 80 mile an hour self-imposed limit that we had, just trying to make sure those guys couldn't get in front of us, which obviously they did. Okay, now let's take a look at the maximum charging rates. That's my peak charging rate that I observed in all 5 stops. For stop number 1, the highest we saw was 166 kilowatt. For stop number 2, it was 165 kilowatt. For stop number 3, 168. Stop number 4 was the highest, 174 kilowatt we saw there. And stop number 5 was 167 kilowatt. All right, so let's go back to the cost to charge a little bit, because I know a lot of people have been asking me on social media, Tom, make sure you explain how much it cost you. Okay, so I said it cost me $157.07 for the 5 public charging stops at the Electrify America stations. Now I want to make sure you understand, I have the Electrify America Pass Plus account. And with that, it cost me $7 a month. And then I get a 25% discount on my Electrify America charging. If I didn't have the Pass Plus account, I'd pay 25% more, which would have made me pay $196.34. Now, Kyle used the Ford F-150 Lightning from Ford. That's Ford's vehicle. So he didn't get emails with the breakdown of how much it cost him to charge like you do. Right now, when I use my adapter on the Tesla network, I get an email from Ford as soon as I unplug, and it tells me all the data from my charging session, how many kilowatt hour, the time I plugged in, the same stuff you get from Electrify America when you end the charging session, and how much it cost. Kyle just got Ford to forward him those emails, and the total for his charging was $202.88. Now I'm assuming that Ford doesn't have the Tesla account, because Tesla also allows you to pay a monthly fee. Now Electrify America charges you $7 a month. Tesla charges you $12.99 a month, so it's almost double. And with that, you get a discount. I'm not sure exactly how much that discount is, but you get a discount. I'm assuming Ford doesn't have that account, and that the $202.88 was the full price. And if you compare that to the full price on the Electrify America network of $196.34, it's really close. The Electrify America network would have been $6.54 less. So, you know, out of $200 of charging a $6 amount, that's like 3.5% difference. So the cost to charge on the 2 networks is very similar. Although I paid a little bit less, but it's because I have that Pass Plus account. I generally tell my followers, if you think you're going to use the network once a month, whether it be the Tesla Supercharger Network or the Electrify America network, if you use it just once a month, chances are you're financially better off getting the account, paying the monthly fee. Although with the Tesla network at $13 a month, I don't know, you might have to charge twice to get above water on the different costs. But Tesla also has a very dynamic pricing plans where they change the price from state to state and even from the time of day you charge. So that's not as simple of an answer as it is with Electrify America, which also has some sort of dynamic price structure now. They changed that recently, but not as much as Tesla. Tesla has very dynamic pricing, and they change, you know, from location to location, from time to time, and you can't really say this is how much it costs to charge from point A to point B, because it's going to vary depending on the time of day and so forth. So, but for this trip, the cost was very similar. All right, wrapping things up, let's talk about some of the things that if they broke differently, the results might have been different. So first off, I have to talk about the distance to the Electrify America sites off the highway compared to the Tesla charging stations. In most instances, Kyle and Dave had to pull right off the highway, and in less than a mile, the charger was there. Sometimes it was just a few hundred feet. And that saves a lot of time. It took me 35 minutes total to get to and from the chargers on this trip. And, you know, that's more than a half an hour of time lost. I would venture to guess it took them less than 10 minutes for everything, except for the time, of course, that they ran out and had to push the Lightning, the final couple hundred feet, whatever, to the charger. I'm just surprised they were able to do that, because it's a really heavy vehicle. So Dave must have some strength in those legs to be able to, from what I understand, he did most of the pushing and Kyle just steered. So, but you might get a different story from Kyle out of that, but that was Dave telling me his son made him do all the pushing. Anyway, so yeah, that distance made a big difference. It really, it probably is what cost us. And then we had that one instance where when we were leaving the charger, it was in this big site, big truck stop. I didn't know how to get out of the parking lot, so I had just Google Maps, which is what we were using for the trip. It routed us out the back of the parking lot, and for like 5 miles through these back roads, and we got on 95 at the next exit, and that had to cost us 5 or 6 minutes. It had to, because the speed limits was much lower on those back roads. Whereas I know there was a way to get out of that parking lot at the front. We just didn't see it, and Google didn't give it to us. So rather than driving around in circles and trying to figure out how to get out of there, we just followed Google's mapping, and I think we lost some time there. So, I mean, this was so close, 4 minutes. Any one mistake cost you the lead. So I'm still shocked at how close this thing was. After all this time, we finish up 4 minutes apart. That is just nuts. But it does go to show that, you know, Electrify America, and I keep going back to being so surprised that it was able to do this, because I haven't had a lot of success in the past. The network isn't that bad, depending on when you're using it, and if the stations are available. At least this one experience that I had driving down there, they work just fine. Now, they need to install more plugs per location. I mean, that is something that we've been harping on for a long time. Utilization is high on these sites now. 2 years ago, when they were really just starting to get kicked off, 2-3 years ago, 4 or 5 stations were fine. There weren't a lot of electric vehicles on the road, but now almost every time I go to an EA site now, I have to wait to plug in. I know it's different depending on what regions in the country you're in, and especially some of the more rural areas, the sites are available. But here in northern New Jersey, it really is, I can pull out my app, and half the stations that are in the area are full. So it's definitely a problem that they have to overcome. Tesla did it right from the beginning. Right from the start, they were installing more than 6 stations per location, and a lot of their locations now have more than 10 or 12, and they're going to need them. Now that the Supercharger network is being opened up to Ford, Rivian's coming next. I think GM's going to be after that. Volvo and Polestar are going to be the next 2 after that. I'm not sure exactly what which manufacturers are going to happen, you know, in what order after that, but they're all getting access. And once that happens, the Supercharger networks are going to start to fill up some more. But one thing we can say about Tesla, they're not slowing down in their deployment of superchargers. They have the pedal to the metal. They keep installing sites, opening up more and more sites. So if anybody can keep up with that demand, it's them. None of the other networks have proven that they can really install enough chargers per location so that the site is reliable. And that's part of the reason why this transition to the NACS, or it's really J3400. I mean, we're calling it the North American Charging Standard, but the right term right now is actually J3400, because now that it's standardized, it's a little bit different. But we'll probably continue to call it NACS because that's the name that everybody started off with. But as we transition to this, it's going to make it easier for all electric vehicles to charge. It's going to be simpler. You don't have to try to figure out what plug. We used to have 4 plugs not too long ago. You know, J1772, CCS1, Chatamo, and Tesla. You know, hopefully somewhere in the near future, it's just going to be the J3400, and that's it. For AC charging and DC charging, you won't have to worry about different plugs. You won't have to learn, look at your app. I want to go to this station. Oh no, that's not the plug that I use. That's just not convenient. If you know, could you imagine having to find the gas station that had the right nozzle to fit your car? You know, it's something that this new industry had to get over, and it looks like we got past it. And I give Ford a lot of credit for being the one that started this. It was probably going to happen in any event. Somebody was going to be first, but you know, Jim Farley said, you know what, we can't continue to offer this type of poor customer experience, and we're gonna transition. And that just, once he did that, every manufacturer had to do it. It was a fait accompli. Once Ford did it, or once any manufacturer came out and said we're going to transfer, any major OEM, the rest of the industry was going to have to follow, because they would be at such a competitive disadvantage if their competitor had access to all these stations and they didn't. So, well, listen, I hope you enjoy this video. I know it's extremely long. It's probably the longest video I ever put out. It's one of the shortest videos that Kyle ever put out. No, but he's putting out his own video. I'm going to put a link to Kyle's video in the description of this video, and I urge you to watch both of them, and hopefully you'll get some enjoyment out of watching my perspective of the race and then Kyle's perspective of the race. This was a lot of fun, and perhaps Kyle and I will team up and do something together like this again in the future. Just hope it's not an 18-hour adventure, because I tell you, I was getting tired. Even though my man Pete was a rock and drove the whole way, I kept saying, you know, do you want me to go? He's like, no, I'm good. You do the video, you do all that stuff. And then once we got down to like South Carolina, he was getting tired, but I remember him saying, you know what, I want to see if I could do this and go the whole way. I wasn't complaining because I had a lot of work to do, just, you know, tweeting out and keeping in touch with followers, and then also shooting all these clips. So it was a ton of fun. And listen, if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please don't forget, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.